This vehicle is a 2014 GMC Terrain. It's got a bad passenger front wheel bearing, which is a pretty common failure. However, it's kind of uncommon how it failed. It makes a strange rubbing or screeching noise, going forward or backing up. Not a typical noise that a wheel bearing makes, but when you lift the vehicle up or jack it up, take weight off that tire, off that bearing, it doesn't make the noise anymore. The only way to make the noise is with the weight of the vehicle on that bearing, which is not typical, but it's a typical job. So let's put a wheel bearing in it. Looking at it from the back side, there's two 18mm bolts right here. That holds the caliper bracket onto the steering knuckle. We don't need to take the caliper off the bracket. We're not servicing the brakes at this time. So I'm going to remove these two bolts. And then there's three bolts that have a 13mm head that come in from the back side that secure the hub assembly. There's one there, one over there out of view, and then there's one up on top out of view. So I just want to point out the elephant in the room here. That brake caliper is obviously leaking, as indicated by the wetness from the brake fluid on it. But at the time of filming, I did not have authorization to replace the brakes on this vehicle. So I just went ahead with the wheel bearing. But obviously off camera, this vehicle ended up getting its brakes and brake caliper replaced. So a little bit of rust right around there. It's just holding this thing on there. There we go. Now on the back side of the knuckle, there's the wheel speed sensor. It's held in by this little bolt, and that's a 10mm. We want to remove it because it's plastic and we don't want a chance breaking it when this axle moves around when we pull that bearing out. That one's loose. They usually don't come out that easy. That's a pleasant surprise right there. Okay, so that's what the speed sensor looks like right there. I'll just leave that off to the side. Okay, everything's removed. All the fasteners are removed. It's time to remove the hub assembly from the steering knuckle. The steering knuckle's aluminum. The hub assembly's steel. They always corrode. They're always stuck. At least where I live, they're always stuck. This one, I mean, honestly, I could probably come in here with a sledgehammer or even a 5-pound, 4-pound hammer and hit it right here and probably peel it out of there. But anytime I get a chance, I use this tool right here. This is called a hub buster or hub shocker. I bought this on Amazon. There's actually a link to it in the description of this video, and this is how this thing works. I saved lug nuts off of old jobs, and you can see it really screws up the edge of the lug nut. So I try to always not use the vehicle's lug nuts. So with the hub buster or hub shocker, there's all kinds of names for this tool. One primary purpose. With that attached, we're going to roll it up here to the 12 o'clock position because I find it works best. And we're going to hit it right here with a hammer, and it should peel that hub assembly right out of the knuckle. It's coming. Effortlessly. If you're a person that likes to fix your own car or fix other people's cars, I highly recommend this tool. It can be bought for anywhere from, I've seen them as low as like $74. I think when I bought this one, I paid about $120 for it. It's done, I don't know, maybe 3 dozen wheel bearings probably since I bought it, maybe more. It's worth it. I haven't broke it yet, and I've beat on it, so check it out. Okay, we need a hammer. If you do ever hit the end of your axle shaft, just be careful not to mar the threads up. This one's not stuck very hard. If it was, I wouldn't use a hammer. I'd use a punch or something in the center. Yeah, there we go. Have to get the shield off of it. It's a good idea to take a wire brush, wire wheel, something, and just clean all the corrosion out of the inside of this, as well as the splines on the shaft and the mating surface. Okay, the bearing that we're going to be installing is a Moog bearing, part number 513288. If I can find a Moog one in Amazon, I will link it below. If not, I will have some form of this bearing linked below. It's always a good idea to do a parts comparison. And that looks like the right part. Let's get this. Yep. Okay. Let's install it. I'm going to put a little bit of grease on the splines here, just so that next time I take this apart, and a few years from now to replace this bearing again, it'll come out. Take some anti-seize and spread it around the outer, or the inner edge of this mounting flange. And hopefully the bearing will fall right out my hand the next time I have to take it apart. Okay, I'm going to take one of the bolts for the wheel bearing, stick it through there. We can hang this splash shield on. We want to make sure we put the splash shield on in the right orientation, because you can put it on wrong. And then when you go to put the brakes on, it's in the way, and then you're mad. Put our hub assembly up here. Oh, you're making me mad. Okay, we're going to tighten the 3 bolts that hold the wheel bearing into the steering knuckle. The book says 151 foot-pounds. We want to reinstall the wheel speed sensor. You only want to snug that up. You don't need to tighten that down a lot. That's just plastic. It's just holding that plastic in place. Okay, let's put the brakes back together. We will line up the hole in the brake rotor for that little screw. I don't know what you call that, a retention screw. I mean, it's completely not necessary. A lot of cars that come here don't have them. They put them on in the factory to hold the rotors on. That's as tight as that needs to be. And the reason I say you don't need them is because, well, most cars don't have them. And once the tire is tightened down, it's going to sandwich the rotor into place anyway. But when you put the rotor on, you want to spin it. Make sure it's quiet, because these dust shields are just weak plastic or weak metal, and they bend. Here they rust, and they bend. And when they contact the rotor, they make a hell of a noise. This one's quiet, so we're golden here. So let's put our brake caliper into place. Torqued to spec. So that was all there was to changing the wheel bearing in a GMC Terrain. It's going to be the same in a Chevy Equinox. It's going to pretty much be the same in any Chevy car or SUV, front wheel drive or all wheel drive. I mean, there might be a tiny little variance here or there, but they're all going to be pretty much the same. If you found this video helpful, give me a thumbs up. Maybe hit subscribe, check out my other content. I appreciate you watching. Thank you. At least I don't have to yell at the camera anymore. I can talk quiet and you can hear me. Right, Penny? Because I used to have to yell. Hey, Penny, come here. Come here. Come here. Sit down. Sit. Sit. Oh, it's a good dog. Yes. You're such a good dog. You are. Yes. All right. All right.